I remembered a joke message I'd sent to Lei on WeChat almost 2 weeks earlier that went unanswered, but I didn't think much of it at the time. But it was very weird, so I went straight to a close friend of Chang Lei's who would know if anything was wrong. The friend, known for being direct and honest, told me that Chang Lei had gone back to Australia due to a pretty serious personal crisis, which explained why her employer was hushing up her sudden departure. In one of my poorer moments of journalistic judgment, I bought the story. In hindsight, it had some pretty big holes in it. Suddenly flying from China to Australia during the COVID pandemic wasn't easy. There weren't even direct flights from Beijing. But my contact was known for not bullshitting and would know better than anyone else if anything was happening. I messaged Zoe to tell her what I'd been told, joking, glad she hasn't been taken by the Chinese cops. Those nonchalant words were still on my message screen 5 days later when Zoe texted again. Her contacts at CGTN in Washington had noticed what I failed to check. Not only had Chang Lei gone mute, but also her presence on CGTN's website and social media accounts had been meticulously purged. Page by page, video after video, anyone looking for this star of the network received a 404 error message. I went back to my contact, who face-to-face over a flat white, confessed that the concerns about Chang Lei were real, and the window for her arrest to be quietly worked out behind closed doors had closed. Chang Lei, he said, had been taken from her apartment, her computer and devices had been seized, and Australian diplomats had already held their first consular visit with her over video chat. She was being held in Beijing under the dreaded residential surveillance at a designated location, an Orwellian legal procedure unique to China that seeks to mask enforced disappearance as something akin to house arrest. It means you've been physically arrested and detained by police, usually at a prison-like facility, and denied access to lawyers and family. Officially, you haven't even been formally arrested, let alone charged. Investigators can shut off detained suspects from the outside world and interrogate them for 6 months while they build a case. It's an unimaginably powerful legal tool for authorities to use and abuse. Being held in RSDL could only mean one thing. Chang Lei was being investigated for national security crimes. My contact told me Lei had given permission during that once-a-month virtual visit for the Foreign Affairs Minister Maurice Payne to issue a statement publicising the case, and he asked me if I would hold off breaking the news until then. No one could imagine Chang Lei doing anything that would genuinely harm China's national security. Politics was at play. Back at the office, I had my story ready to go. I'd asked the ABC cameraman Steve Wang to stay back and prepare for a late night of broadcast coverage. Chang Lei wasn't known to audiences in Australia, but she was an unusually high-profile Australian for China to target. It wasn't just her presence as the face of a Chinese government news channel, but also her close ties to the Australian community in Beijing. She was a regular MC at embassy and business chamber events. She was a promotional ambassador for Australian education. She spoke at International Women's Day events. Few visiting politicians or international business bigwigs would get through a China visit without sitting down to be interviewed by her. There really wasn't anyone I could think of who better epitomised the idea of Australia-China engagement than Chang Lei. Australia's relations with China were worsening by the week as Beijing slapped bans on various Australian exports in apparent retaliation for Australia's hardening stance towards its biggest trading partner. Chang Lei's arrest would send a shockwave through Australia's political and business community. I was waiting on a response from the Foreign Minister's office when the manager from ABC International back at home told me DFAT had rung him instead. They want you to prepare to leave China as soon as possible. His words made no sense. I had a big story ready to break, and whatever it was about, Chang Lei's detention had absolutely nothing to do with me. In typical DFAT style, the officials hadn't given my bosses in Australia any clear reason for the warning, but they'd also called the Australian Financial Review to warn their correspondent, Mike Smith, to get out too.